the Emo Hour. Your weekly power hour of all things emo and adjacent. With your hosts, Katie and Nani.
Hello and welcome to the Emo Hour. It's your hosts, Katie and Nani. Hi, Katie.
Hi. You said my name first. That was weird.
Oh, really?
You're Nani and I'm Katie. You said
that's
it's your
true.
host, Katie and Nani.
Yeah, that's right. I'm Ann Nani today.
And Nani.
And Nani.
Welcome. How are you today?
I am doing pretty great. The weather is so amazing. We're in the thick of summer and it is, I don't know, it's going by fast actually. That's it's probably what should be making me emo this week, but I've got something different for us today. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. We talked a little bit about all the road construction that has been going on in our town. Mm-hmm. And I will just say, since Main Street is back open, this week being back home has been so nice because when Main Street was closed, traffic was diverted right next to our place. And so it was always loud and cars and all this stuff. And the last couple mornings have been so much more peaceful. It's been very nice.
That makes me so happy for you.
Yeah. It's probably same with you. I know, your road had extra traffic too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's half of it's still coming by because the northbound, but the southbound, but the northbound is good. So
good.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to go first? What's making you emo, or do you want me to go?
Mine might take just a couple seconds. So why don't we, no, you know what? Let's go with me first. 'Cause we might as well just go into the crazy immediately. Okay. Well, so what's making me emo, and you know this about me, but I see reoccurring 11s in my life.
Yes.
So I see 11 a lot. I see 11:11 on the clock a lot. And, I'm sorry to say this to one of my best friends, but I've entered back into delulu TikTok as of recently, where I'm getting.
I didn't know you left it.
I guess maybe I never left it. You're right, but I am being served all of these psychic readings and things about angel numbers, and 11 just keeps popping back up in my life again as of recently. Okay. And it's happened a few times that I know you know of. But I thought what I would do is read to you the what ChatGPT gave me, the quick, angel number 11 or seeing 11:11. And then you could unpack it with me real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so, and I realize I'm fully in delulu land, but it's making me emo because it's happening again. I'm like, why is the universe giving me this number?
Do you want to know my answer to that?
If you could see her face right now, oh my God, I know she's got something to say.
Well, it's not that exciting, but if you want my response to that, my response is that you're looking for it, and that's why.
Well, I think that there's probably truth to that as well, but I'm not looking for 11. It just keeps popping up.
Okay.
Last night at 11:11, I looked at my phone. I had no other reason to look at my phone.
Other than we're all addicted to phones and we look at them every other minute. Yeah.
Okay. To be fair, you're right. But I just have to let me read this to you.
Okay.
So manifestation energy, 11 is known as the master number in numerology, symbolizing creativity, insight, and the power to manifest your desires. There is alignment and awakening. 11:11 is considered the signal that you are in sync with the universe or that you're on the right path. And it also says it can represent a moment of spiritual awakening or heightened intuition. And then it says a call to pay attention. When 11:11 appears, it's like a cosmic prompt. Pause, notice, and connect. And then it says new beginnings and a higher purpose. The number 11 often signals that new opportunities or deeper purpose are unfolding. It encourages us to trust the process and openness to guidance from the universe or your higher self. And so generally it's people who see 11:11 or 11s a lot is just kind of a reminder to ask for what you want, make a wish, set an intention, or affirm your goals, which I think that's all really positive stuff. And I know that I'm not the only person in the world on delulu TikTok, and I know that I'm not the only person that's Googling about angel numbers, but I just needed you to know that I'm over in this hole over here. The 11's
Well,
the 11's hole, if you will.
I mean, if it's all positive and like helping you out or inspiring you or motivating you or validating you or, any of that, then whatever. Don't let my cynical attitude tear you down from that. That's my cynical attitude coming out.
And I love you for it. But yeah, 11's have been popping back up in my life like crazy, and it's definitely making me a little emo. So that's
Oh my God. Guess what this Friday is?
Oh my God. Is
The
it the
11th. Did you know that happens once a month?
No. It doesn't. No, it doesn't. A Friday is not always on the 11th.
Well, no, not always on a Friday. I just meant the 11th.
So like what happens if at 11:11 on Friday the 11th is like something magical going to happen?
Maybe. I don't know. Manifest it. Bring it into the world.
Manifest it, baby. Okay, well, we've taken you down enough of my crazy train, so we should probably switch gears and ask you what's making you emo this week.
Well, mine is short and sweet, and I was kind of toying around with the idea of a couple different things, but I'm going to talk about my daughter, and just as of late, she's been very into dancing. And specifically like spinning around and like using her arms as a wind up to like fully spin around, and really just keeps asking to dance all the time. But specifically when she wants to dance, she wants to put on a dancing dress, and she's obsessed with what she calls dancing dresses. And she wants to put on a dancing dress and then she wants to dance. And I just think it's the cutest freaking thing in the world. And she just like is truly obsessed with dancing dresses. So
I'm obsessed for you. This sounds so damn cute. I've seen like a partial video of you guys at the pool and then she was like spinning herself around. But I wonder what that feeling is like for a kid, like understanding like force and inertia and being able to like whip your body around by using your arms.
Yeah, no, she's figuring it out. And then that video, she's in a swimsuit, but she does it in a dress a lot. And the twirlier, the better, right? And then she can like feel the dress kind of like follow her and hit her. And she even will like lift up the skirt of the dress a little bit to like try to make it twirly. And it's just so freaking cute. But she'll just say, I want a dancing dress. And every dress is a dancing dress, like in her opinion. It's not anything specific. It's just any dress.
Right.
So
she's so cute.
Summer season, and she's wearing dresses because she wasn't wearing dresses all winter, and now
to, like, go
every
buy her
day.
a little like petticoat or like a little tutu or something like that. So
She has a couple tutus.
Oh, she does. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, gosh,
but it's just very cute, the dancing dress. So I just had to share. Kids are cute and pains in the ass. Too.
They're amazing most of the time. Right?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
You know what else is amazing?
Ooh.
Is our interview today with...
You took me off track. But I think that's fair. But I just have to say really quick, I love your daughter a lot, and she's so damn darling, and I can't wait to see her in her proper dancing dress. Because seeing the video of her in her swimsuit doing it was so cute. But imagining what she looks like in a dress is like... It's going to make my heart melt.
Well, maybe you'll see it tonight if we go to Catch 'em Alive.
Yeah, but you have a very good point. We have something very exciting in store for the listeners. You want to share what's coming up next?
Yeah, today we have an interview with Tyler, and I don't even want to try to pronounce his last name because it's a long one. Schlag, I think, is like the short way to say it, like the nickname kind of, from the band Mylo Bybee. And he is fully an emo fan. The band is more kind of alt rock, 90s rock vibes is my main impression, but he's just super fun to talk to. They're doing really cool things in the short amount of time that they've been a band, and we talk about all of it, and it's just really cool and exciting. So
yeah, and they've got some big things ahead of them.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Well, let's turn it over to the interview with Tyler. We're excited to introduce today's guest, a band that we've been low-key obsessed with, Mylo Bybee. They're a 4-piece indie alt-rock band from Boise, Idaho, formed during the 2020 lockdown. Their sound is what they call organized chaos, a mix of indie and alt rock that somehow perfectly captures that feeling of rereading old texts that you really shouldn't be doing. Songs like Fade Me Out, Friends We Once Had, and Best for Last are basically emotional anthems for anyone who's ever blasted their stereo while crying in their car. Fun fact, there was a real guy in Boise named Mylo Bybee who might have invented finger steaks, Idaho's crispy deep-fried delicacy that we all know and love. So we're definitely going to have to ask about that connection. We couldn't be more excited to welcome Tyler from Mylo Bybee to the Emo Hour. Welcome, Tyler.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so sorry, I have to ask. First question, does it have anything to do with finger steaks?
Yeah, you were spot on. So Mylo Bybee is the pioneer from Idaho who is he claims to have invented the finger steak. It's hotly contested, of course. But yeah, that's basically it. That's who he is.
That's
And
awesome.
you just thought that was a great name? You're like, that's a great band name.
Yeah. So I remember at the time, so before we were really even a band, my brother, who's also in the band, we had just read an article in the Idaho Statesman or something that was talking about the guy who invented the finger steak, and his name was Mylo Bybee, and we just thought it was a really cool story, A, because we didn't know it was invented in Idaho,
Yeah.
and B, we just thought his name kind of had a ring to it, but we weren't like, oh, let's create a band name this. We went and recorded shortly after that, didn't have a band name at the time, and the recording engineer was like, I need a band name, like, to attach these files to, whatnot, and my brother just off the cuff said Mylo Bybee as kind of a default, and it just stuck. So it's not a super cool story, but that's what it is.
I kind of love the origin story. I think it's awesome. There's not a lot of bands out there. I can think of one other that's maybe out in the sphere that pops into my brain immediately, like Bob Moses is like the city planner of New York, and there's a band called Bob Moses. But
Nice.
I love it's finger steaks. Come on, like
Right,
how
exactly.
iconically Idaho.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's so funny you saying that, iconically Idaho. We played with several bands who aren't from Idaho, and they'll ask us the same kind of question. They're like, "What is a finger steak?" Like they have no idea.
Right.
If they're east of the Midwest at all, like they don't know what that is.
What do you tell them when they ask what a finger steak is?
I was like, just imagine a chicken finger, but it's steak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly.
Yeah.
And fried sauce, of course.
Yeah,
I would.
Right, of course, you have to have that.
Yeah.
So you're not like the number one finger steak fan in Idaho? That's not
I
the
mean,
reason?
I'm trying. I'm trying for sure. After people find out what our band name is, of course, they are immediately asking, especially if they're not from here, like, well, where's the best finger steaks in town? Where do you go to get them? And it's funny because this might be more than you want to know about the guy Mylo Bybee, but they were originally started at the Torch here in Boise, which is now a strip club.
a strip
but
club, yeah.
before it was just a restaurant, and that's where he created them. But no idea if they have finger steaks anymore. But I send people to Hyde Park Pub in town has really good finger steaks, so that's usually my first recommendation.
Okay, great.
When you've played a show, has any of your fans ever delivered finger steaks to you on stage?
No, they haven't, but that would be incredible.
Oh man, that needs to happen. Somebody's
we've
listening out there. Please take note, and next time you see the band, please bring them finger
Please
steaks.
do. If you're listening to this, come catch us at a show and bring some finger steaks. You will get free merch.
Oh my God.
That's an offer.
Yeah.
There you go. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we can move on from finger steaks, I think. But
I just really had to learn a little bit more about that. So thank you for indulging me.
yeah.
And it's funny, real quickly, super quick on that story. The whole time, of course, when we got our band name, that I was always making a joke like, I'm just waiting to get sued, by the Mylo Bybee estate or whatever it is. And I've had multiple family members reach out.
Really?
His. Yeah, in a good way. Like
Okay.
I mean, they're just like, they were all just like, A, where'd you get the band name, or why did you think of this? And it was his granddaughter reached out at one time and was just started following us on Instagram. So anyway, I thought it was kind of funny, but I'm sure I'll still be sued someday.
I think he passed
Idaho
away
night.
some time ago, so
Yeah.
I think you're probably safe.
And if we're on that big of a radar to be sued, then we're doing something right.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Fun fact about Idaho, just since we were talking about finger steaks being very Idaho, the first ever Warp Tour happened in Boise, Idaho in 1995.
No way.
First ever. Yeah, isn't that
Really?
crazy?
I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we
I
got
miss Warped Tour. I know it's back now,
It's back.
somewhat, but yeah,
It's back, but it's not the same. But it's back.
it's not the same.
It's
Yeah.
like a much glossier version, much like more, I don't know, hi-fi version than what we're used to.
Yeah,
We're
it's
used to
funny,
some more like dirt lots.
It's funny too, mentioning Warped Tour. We played with, I'm sure you know the band, Early November. You know, they were a big time band back in that day, and still, I mean, they're still crushing it. But we opened for Ace Enders, and got to play with him, and we were talking about just that. A, he was one that asked us what the hell a finger steak is, and then B, he said he'd never played in Boise before, and I'm like,
Oh.
I'm like, I know you have because I saw you at Warped Tour.
Oh.
You know, with Early November here, and he was like, Warped Tour was such like a, I don't remember the term that he used, but it was almost a haze. You know, he's like, I don't remember where we played Warped Tour, which makes
Sure.
sense. Like, it's in every city, all over the place, like back in the day. So I always thought that was kind of a funny story. He had no idea that he'd ever even played in Boise.
That's fun. When and where was that show?
When we opened for them,
Yeah.
that was it was at the Olympic in Boise, and it
Cool.
was in May of, was it last year? No, it was May 2 years ago.
Oh, May 2024.
2024, yeah.
Yeah,
We
the
opened
Spill
for
Canvas.
them and the Spill Canvas, yeah. Two of my all-time favorites for sure.
What a lineup! That would have been a killer show to see.
And I don't know if you've been to the Olympic before, but it's not like a big room, and it was, I mean, it
No.
was packed, as you can imagine. And just a super, super fun show for sure. And it was just Ace and one other guy. It wasn't Early November, but
Okay.
it was still super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. But
Yeah.
let's back up a little bit. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
know
yeah.
a little bit more about like your personal journey into music. Like, when did you start playing music? When did you start writing songs?
Yeah. So I've always, been involved in music or had a love for music in some way, just growing up through family always having different music playing in the house. My dad always had different records, playing. We had I remember my dad, when we were really young, bought just like a $10 like mini acoustic guitar at a yard sale. And so we always had that around the house that we would just kind of, dink around with and play around with. And I keep saying we because, my brother, of course, is in the band with me and kind of has the similar story, similar journey. But my dad always played harmonica. So we were always kind of engulfed in it and always been around it and always just had a love for it that I feel like many, young kids do. But I, jumping ahead a lot, I started playing guitar when I was probably 14 or 15.
Okay.
And my first ever guitar was just a really cheap electric guitar that actually had an amp built into it, which is really funny. I don't think I've seen one since that. But then just kind of started picking it up and trying to learn how to play. Never really took any formal lessons or anything like that. Just kind of, play by ear somewhat. Play what I think sounds good that might not really even be a note, but just kind of started putting some things together. So I was never really in like a band or like anything formalized until college.
Okay.
I would always play, just myself, but never actually played like an actual show or played in front of people until college. And so I got, before that, before I was actually in a band, I mean, I was the avid kid in Boise going to shows, every single weekend through, middle school, high school, to all the Boise venues, many of which are not even around anymore. One called The Venue.
I was going to bring that one up. That's the one I went to a lot.
Yeah, that place was so cool and used to go there all the time.
Now it's Boise Brewing Company, right?
Now it's Boise Brewing Company.
Is that the one with the stage was in the corner?
Kind of.
Yeah. I feel like they might have moved the stage a few times, but yeah.
Okay.
I think it's probably that same one. There was also one I don't know what it is now in Boise. I think it's like the Handlebar or something, and it's been several things. It used to be Crazy Horse a long time ago, like before I was even old enough to go, it was 21 or older. But then it turned into a club called JD and Friends it was all ages, but it was really weird. Like when you walked in around the middle area where you could be at the bar and drinking, they had a chain link fence. And so if you were below 21, you had to walk around the outside of the chain link fence to get up to the front of the stage. And so we would go to a lot of shows there. And a couple buddies and I in high school who were just really getting into the music scene started like super DIY, like getting some bands to come play at this little JD and Club Friends. I don't know if you ever knew the band Noggin Toboggan, if you've ever heard of them.
No, but that's a great name.
Super cool band name. Yeah, super cool band name. They were getting big, and they were like MXPX-ish.
Okay.
Like they toured with MXPX for a long time, like that same genre around that same time that MXPX, was kind of at their heyday. And, just kind of brought some bands in and started doing, kind of furthered my love, for not only music, but kind of that DIY scene. We used to go to a lot of house shows around Boise. So just somebody who just kind of fell, or fell hard, into the scene. And it was just always kind of, out going to some type of concert. And then that kind of just blossomed into, me actually furthering my own passion for music through playing in a band, through starting to actually formalize things and put together shows and play in front of people. And so that's like I mentioned at the beginning, in college was my first actual band.
And what was the name of that band?
She Hurts the Music. Very emo.
So I was going to say that is very, very
actually,
emo.
I'll take it even a
Who
step
was heartbroken?
further. Yeah. I'll take it even a step further. This is how emo we were. It was She Hurts, and then in parentheses, the music.
Oh
so
my
even better.
gosh.
And that was like the MySpace days, So we thought we were pretty cool.
R.I.P. to the MySpace days. Boy, those were great. Top 8.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yes, they were.
So
that's
angsty,
so
so passive aggressive.
Yeah, 100%. And it was one of those bands, too. We also thought we were cutting edge because we had 2 screamers in the band that played no instruments, and they were just hopping around and going crazy on stage. And it was really good music. I thought, and it was a pretty heavy band. But yeah, it was super fun. And at the same time, I was playing in another band, like a folk rock band called Little Hero at the same time, that was like 2 ends of the spectrum, like couldn't have been further apart. But I went to a little college town in North Dakota that had one really cool venue, like really cool DIY venue, so all shows would funnel to that spot. So it was just a really cool little music community there.
Oh, that's awesome. So hearing folk, hearing screamo, hearing all of these different genres, I'm curious what your musical influences are.
Oh gosh. I span the gamut. So from writing lyrics, I often attribute my style, which if you listen to the lyrics, they are not deep. They are very surface level, matter of fact, you don't have to read too much into them. And I used to grow up listening to Jim Croce all the time. My dad would always have Jim Croce albums on, and so obviously our music doesn't sound like that at all. But from a lyricist perspective and from a singer perspective, I always kind of think back to that as kind of an influence.
Interesting.
From kind of a full band perspective, my favorite bands during those times growing up, your Manchester Orchestra, that's one of my top bands. I mentioned already Spill Canvas, Early November. Those were a huge influence. I was listening to them all the time, and it's crazy now because they're my same age.
But also how epic that you got to play with them too.
For sure. In many areas it's come full circle for sure. So Manchester Orchestra, Appleseed Cast was always a really big influence on us.
Oh, yeah.
Or on me, anyway. So that's a lot of my influences. I'm a big Deer Hunter fan, As Tall as Lions. I'm a big Thrice fan. Thrice came a little later on.
Yeah.
But that would be, from a band perspective, that's a lot of my influences. But then on the other hand, I'm a big Cat Stevens fan. I'm a big, James Taylor fan. Jim Croce, I already mentioned. So I kind of span the gamut for sure.
Gosh, that's awesome.
So hearing you say the Deer Hunter, I love the Receiving End of Sirens, one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
I went to their 20-year reunion for Between the Heart and Synapse, I think it was. I think it was their 20-year reunion in Boston, and Casey came out on stage. It was this epic moment because he left to go do the Deer Hunter, and then the replacement of the member was Brian, and the show that I was referencing, I think the only time I've ever been to the venue that you guys were talking about in Boise, why I was asking, is that the stage with the one in the corner? Is I drove from Montana to go see the Receiving End of Sirens at that venue.
No way.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. When would that have been?
Let's see. I would have been in college, but it probably would have been early college. So, and I graduated in 2010. 2006,
7?
5,
Okay.
6, 7.
Okay.
I started college in 5, so that probably wasn't it, but probably 6 or 7.
Oh, that would have been incredible.
Yeah.
It
It was awesome.
Yeah. I hope I'm not ruining anything by saying this, but we have been in talks with Casey about working with us on some music.
Oh,
Amazing.
Yes.
And we just got done recording, and we were in talks to work together on this one from a producer standpoint. We're in talks to still work together in the future. It's just that we were working with a label previously, that helped with like the funding side of things.
Right.
And we actually decided they weren't greenlighting any new music projects, and so we just decided to record and do this one on our own. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to work with Casey in the future.
Oh man, that would
Wow.
be so exciting. I know the rest of the guys in the band really well. He's the one that I don't know as well.
You know
homies
the
with
rest of the band of Deer
all of
Deer
them.
Hunter? Oh, really?
no,
oh, nice.
so of trios.
Oh, Receiving Into Sirens.
Yeah. Yeah. So I that sucks because I'd put in a phone call and be like, you got to talk
For
to
sure.
we got to make
Well,
this happen.
And they've been like, we were even texting back and forth for a while, but then we let the team, the managements and all that stuff talk, because that's the best way to go about it. But
Yeah.
I mean, he just seems like a dream to work with.
Yeah. Oh, and he's so brilliant. I think that would be such a match made in heaven. So I
For
really
sure.
I hope that something comes into fruition down the line.
Me too. And I'll attribute it back to this conversation on this podcast if it goes.
We
There you
are putting
go.
into the universe. I don't know if you heard, but Katie made an intention at the beginning of the year to meet Mark and Tom from Blink-182, and it happened
All
last
right.
week. So
Did it really? Last
yeah.
week? Oh, wow.
They both own places here, so they're
Do they
around.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have. I don't know why I didn't throw them in there. Like, I listened to Blink. Like, they were actually, when I was starting to kind of somewhat pick up guitar, any new song that I wanted to learn was a Blink song.
Right.
Those were the songs that I initially learned that kind of helped me with some chord progressions and whatnot. So they were definitely a huge influence. I've seen them probably 10
What's funny
times, I
about
think.
that is they've joked that All the Small Things is like the easiest thing to learn on guitar, and that like a 4-year-old could learn it. Basically,
It's true. It's true. Actually, a couple of theirs are in a good way,
Yeah.
in a really good way, because it's the simplest things that they write, and they're just bangers or complete hits, all of them that they write. So that's hats off to them for sure. Oh, that's super cool. I hope they're as cool as they seem like they are.
They were super nice. I mean,
I figured.
very brief interactions. We talked about it on the pod already, but the genuine shock that I felt running into Mark Hoppus on a hiking trail north of town. That's
So
just
it's
not a
happen chance. Like it was
yeah.
no way. Oh,
Genuine
my God,
shock.
That's even better.
We were going opposite directions on the trail, and it's just like I look up and there's Mark Hoppus. Like that's not something that happens.
No way. That's
Katie
incredible.
fangirled. It was amazing.
Fully.
I would have too.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my
fully
God,
Yeah.
that's
fangirl.
Well,
amazing.
and
I need to hear
it
the rest of
kind
that
of-
story later, or go listen to the podcast.
Yeah. I think it's probably we say Blink-182 in the title of it, but the other thing that's so weird is that because I've seen them in town a couple of times, but Katie never has, and a lot of the team that I worked with when I was managing Circus Survive is the same team that works with Blink, and so there's a lot of mutual connections. So it's a very easy thing to just be like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like, 'cause we
Yeah.
have mutual friends, and so all this time I've run into them, but Katie's never had this interaction, and it happened. And we saw both of them together at a restaurant, and it was just
A few days later.
the perfect meet cute for Katie.
Yeah,
That's
well, they're
incredible.
my
And
all-time fave. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'm super jealous because I'm in Ketchum all the time. So now, of course, every time I'm there, I'm going to be like, all right, what hiking trail are they on?
Yeah,
Where are they
turn on those spidey senses.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes out.
I've growing up in Boise, would go there all the time, and we used to see Arnold all the time, in town, and several others. But would love to run into someone like that there for sure.
Yeah, well, just keep your eye out, and now that you know that they're around,
we'll be there a lot more frequent.
Yeah, but let's talk about you and the formation of Mylo Bybee. So, I mean, I know you formed the band in 2020, but can you just kind of tell us about that? Because that's a weird time in everyone's life, right?
For sure. Yeah. So, 2020, I had lived out of the state for several years before that. My brother had lived out of state for several years before that. We were both back by that time. Lockdown happened. In town in Boise here, and a couple guys around town, we around the same time as a little business venture decided to. There's a building here in town that we retrofitted to be 15 rehearsal spaces for bands, like 24-hour access. Go and come when they please.
Wow.
So we had access to like a practice space, and so when lockdown happened, I just reached out to my brother, and at the time, our drummer was our brother-in-law, so it was a family band. And I just said, hey, it's lockdown. Like, we're always around each other anyways because we're family. Like, should we just jam? Like, because it just so happened our brother-in-law played drums. My brother had never played bass before the band, but he was a longtime guitar player, and he's like, I'll dink around with the bass guitar, and we can just kind of, start basically passing the time, something while everything else was locked down. We had all the gear, we had all the equipment, we had the space to do it, so we weren't, annoying our neighbors that are stuck in their house and all that. So anyway, we just decided to start jamming together, and we actually, again, we are family and know each other well and clicked super well. And from a music standpoint, because we'd never played together before.
Right.
And got like 5 songs together really quickly. And since everything was locked down, nobody was playing shows towards I shouldn't say the end, but, as the pandemic progressed and some things were kind of opening back up, with mask mandates and whatnot, we just decided to go record just a 5-song EP so that we would have something to be able to let people listen to, just kind of a project, really going into all of that with no expectations. That's around the time we went to record, didn't have the band name, because we were so early on, and just recorded 5 songs. Got them out there because obviously nowadays it's so easy to get your songs out there on the interwebs and streaming services and whatnot. So we recorded them, put them out there for everyone to listen to. And actually shortly after that, we surprisingly got signed from that first EP.
That's amazing.
Just to a little indie label out of Atlanta and London. They have offices in. And
I feel like that doesn't happen very often.
No.
Like on a first EP.
No, it never. Well, I didn't know, and I still don't. How to navigate the business side of things. I'm like, we haven't even played a show yet.
Yeah.
But it was. Obviously, it was very flattering and cool, and then it just kind of progressed from there. So then we were, I remember our drummer specifically saying, like, after we had recorded the album, he made like a tongue-in-cheek comment. He's like, we're like never going to actually play a show with these. And we're like, well, we might end up playing a show. And then our first ever show was at the Boise Hive when lockdown was, again, kind of things were lifting, but mask mandates. They had live at the Hive, so they broadcast like shows there. Just, they stream them, but nobody was in the crowd. It was just us playing to a camera, basically.
Oh, wow. That's awkward.
Yeah. Oh, it was super awkward. That was our
your first show?
Very first show
You played to no one. You played to people, but you played to no one.
Yeah, played to literally a camera and a guy. There was a guy in there that was like, he's like a rocket scientist or something by day job. And so he built all these little robots that would like wheel around the place with different cameras. So he got some like cool camera angles and stuff. So it was a really bizarre first show, but that was the introduction of Mylo Bybee to the world. Aside from our tunes that we had already put up, But that's what kind of started it, and then just kind of progressed from there. We just got to a point where we were just starting to really practice regularly. We started actually booking some real gigs and some real shows, and I think it was year 1 or 2 of us being a band. We put in for Tree Fort and played Tree Fort.
Awesome.
And so that's obviously almost the best launching point you could have.
No kidding. We've talked about they get
yeah.
like thousands of submissions. Like,
Oh yeah.
unreal.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty amazing. That festival in itself is amazing, but to be able to have that opportunity as such a young band. So everything kind of really happened super fast for us, for people that, we were going to this again with really no expectations. My brother-in-law, who was our drummer, he'd played in tons of punk bands growing up in Boise. And he used to play at the Venue all the time, JD and Friends, all those venues that I mentioned before. And he was in several bands. But my brother and I, we hadn't really, either of us, been in any organized kind of, band like, other than mine in college. But that was very, very low-key. But other than that, we had never really, we weren't very seasoned on the band circuit, is what I'll say.
Right.
So anyway, it just kind of started from there.
Wow. I mean, that's a crazy cool story. Like, how stoked are you that things took off so quickly?
Really stoked. It was super cool, and it was, when we got signed too, it was just so bizarre because one of the first like meetings, formal meetings that we had with them or whatever, they asked if we wanted to have our EP remastered, and we had just finished it. And we recorded here at the Tonic Room in Boise, which Jason over there does an incredible job. He's so good. But he was like, would you like it to be remastered? He's like, we think it sounds okay as is, but they work with Abbey Road in London. And I was like the Abbey Road?
Right.
Like that Abbey Road? And he said, do you want it remastered there? And I was like, yeah. Like, of course.
No question.
Yeah.
That isn't a question. That's just a yes. Yep.
Yeah, I think we're in.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, that happened, and then it just kind of continued from there. Like, here was if you see on Spotify, we have like a dance remix of one of our singles from that first EP, because then the label kind of took it and did some of the business things with it. They're like, this will allow you to get on, additional playlists, like broaden the audience, and so there was a producer in London. Yeah, a producer in London that heard our track being remastered at Abbey Road, and he wanted to make a remix of it himself. It's called Cornered, and he took the track and remastered it or remixed it into like a 9-minute dance track, on Spotify too. So all these little different things were just continuing to happen, that we were just kind of along for the ride and continuing to just still play and write songs together, in this space that we had while booking some shows.
That's amazing. And so you're the main, or maybe the only songwriter in the band, right?
Yeah, yes, I bring the songs to the guys typically. I mean, 50 to 75% like baked in, maybe. Like, usually have the melodies. I usually have the hook, like the lyrical hook. I usually have kind of the blueprint of what I want it to sound and look like. But then I fully want everybody else's spin on it, because now our band makeup is a little bit different. So our drummer, we have a new drummer now. Our brother-in-law ended up having a little girl with our sister, several years ago, and for obvious reasons, just needed to step back. And so we have a new drummer now who's a totally different style of drummer. He's we played with, we opened for Fred Mascherino, who was a longtime screamer and guitar player for Taking Back Sunday, and I remember him saying, he's from Philly, and he said he pinpointed right off the bat that our drummer was from Philly, like without even talking to him and knowing, which was bizarre to me. He's like, that is an East Coast Philly drummer, and I said, he's literally from Philly. Just because the different style of drummer that he is. He's way more loose, way more just can like pick up something and run with it, and rather than like, I'll say less technical, but in like a good way. Anyway, he's a really, really solid drummer, comes from a different musical background than all of we do, than my brother does, than I do. Like, we all kind of bring in different influences into our sound. And so he's in the band now, and then we have a lead guitar player now that's just kind of brought our sound to that next, that next level, that next stage, to where we're at now. But it's just continuing to progress.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious with songwriting, like what's the first thing that usually comes to you? Like, is it lyrics? Is it a melody? Or does it just depend on, is it an idea or does it just depend on what's going on?
It kind of depends. It's usually a melody that I'll hear. And I'll even, there's probably a way better way to do this, but I have like the little voice memo thing on my phone. Like,
sure.
If I'm hearing a melody, I'll just hum it, into it, and then I'll go usually get the guitar and try to figure out like what are these notes here. And usually when I have the melody, I hear kind of like a vocal hook almost in my head too. And so that's usually kind of where it starts.
That's a lot of I feel like that's a very common way that people will like jot it down, because you lose it so quickly if you don't at least hum it. Yeah, for
sure. And what I do too that helps me is like I said, I'll often have like a vocal melody in my head too, or like a hook almost, and I just input like random lyrics in it that don't ever stick, but it's how I remember the song, like in the notes that I put in or in the voice memo. Like I'll title it something that I was just singing over and over and over again from that.
So you're singing melody. Like apple juice sunglasses.
Exactly.
Standing on the street.
But it's like a mnemonic device because it works. Then I go back to it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that one that I was humming in my head. Yeah. So that's typically how it happens. But then it's funny, like so from our that first 5-song EP that I mentioned, and then we had another album that came out, Master Machine, the full, almost that full album. All of those songs, we'll say 17 songs or so between the two, I had brought to the guys, come in with the vocal melody, come in with the hook, come in with the kind of the bass line. But then several other of those songs like were some of the first songs that we just jumped in as a band and like wrote together. Like there's a song on Master Machine called Run Run, and that I think
that's my favorite, by the way.
That's one of my favorite, and I love playing that song. And there's a funny story behind that one, because when we brought in our new drummer, his name's Lupe, we were still kind of in that phase where we're like, it's got to be the perfect fit because we're coming from our brother-in-law, playing drums, and it's got to be that perfect fit. This is someone who reached out to us, that came and watched us at a show. He wrote to us afterwards. He's like, I really love the vibe. I'd love to come try out for you guys. Cool. And this was still in the phase where he came to our practice session and was like, he said he'd already learned a bunch of the songs, was going to just start playing with us. He literally, and this isn't an exaggeration, the first beat he started playing practicing was that opening drum beat to Run Run. And he just started playing that, and then I just kind of jumped in with those notes. So we literally kind of wrote that song in one take, essentially.
Amazing.
The groundwork for that. The first time he ever played, with us, and my brother and I are like, all right, you're in.
You passed.
Yeah.
That's really cool, because you were doing it real time, which it sounds very different than the way that the rest of your songs are kind of processed.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's cool.
For sure. Yeah, and it just kind of built from there. Built on from there, and then we shortly after that we had, because most of those songs were already written and done for that album, and so shortly after that, with this new drummer, we went in and recorded with him too.
Wow. Maybe more collaboration with him coming up then.
Oh, yeah,
the new
for
drummer.
Sure. Yeah.
In terms of songwriting, I mean.
For sure. Yep. He's one of those too, which, many musicians are. He plays guitar also. He writes his own songs too, and whatnot. So he's multifaceted for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about, you opening up for Ace Enders and the Spill Canvas, which are kind of emo legends, but you've also opened up for other emo legends like Hawthorne Heights and Amber Pacific last October at the Knitting Factory. So, to me, that seems like that's a big get. And Hawthorne is truly an emo legend. I think everybody knows Hawthorne Heights, even if you're not an emo fan.
Yeah, Ohio is for lovers. Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? That's the emo anthem.
Yeah, absolutely. So cut my wrists and black my eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Cut my wrists and black my eyes. Sorry. You can't not. You just can't not.
Yeah.
No, you can't. And seeing it live, I don't know if you've seen them in concert live. It's just, the whole crowd is, it's just super energetic. And obviously, Hawthorne Heights has a ton of good songs, and their whole set is really good. But everyone's waiting for Ohio's for Lovers, and the crowd like erupted. When
Of course.
it came on, as it does.
Yeah. So how did that happen? Like, how did that connection happen, and how was that show?
Yeah, so we had started before this show had ever come about. We had got booked by the Knitting Factory on multiple occasions. They put us on a show a long time ago with a band called Michigander, and yeah, Michigander's incredible. And so we just played that show. They meaning the Knitting Factory, really liked us, dug our sound. So they started to kind of throw some other shows at us, down the road. We kind of built up a relationship with, one of their booking agents. And we're really on their radar. Like that's kind of, all it took. And well, I shouldn't say all it took because I'm over persistent to a fault probably. But
persistence is a great thing.
Yeah,
for
it
sure,
is.
for sure. And so basically I saw they were coming to town, and I reached out to the booking agent. I said, typically bands of that size, they're not taking local openers. Like that's just a thing that we, you see in the scene, like bands that have got to kind of that level of popularity, that it's like more than just a show you're going to. It's a full-on performance. Like, they don't oftentimes won't take local openers, which is fine. But I'd reach out to the booking agent and I just said, hey, if there's any chance they're looking for a local opener, like I would love you, to consider us, etc. She said, absolutely. We haven't heard anything from them yet. Again, just me assuming they're not going to take one. But I actually then reached out to their representation. Again, thinking you'd never hear back.
When you say representation, are you talking manager?
For them,
because I'm curious if somebody else out there like is curious, like how do I get my band on a bill that doesn't traditionally take a local opener, right? It's like,
so
when you say booking agent, are you reaching out to the promoter of the venue and the booking agent of the band and the manager of the band, or
typically
curious?
Yes, and they never actually for this one they never actually responded to me directly. They responded to the Knitting Factory booking agent, so I don't actually know who received my email. But yes, I checked off all those boxes. Reached out to the booking agent of the Knitting Factory. I reached out to the the booking agent or the tour manager for Hawthorne Heights. Reached out to their actual manager. I'm sure there were some other contacts in there that I found that who knows if they're even connected to him anymore that I reached out to. Yeah, and
we love this. You're like a go-getter,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Nani's very much that way too. It's a great life lesson. Like you don't know until you ask.
And it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like you're not going to hear back from them. Like,
yeah.
Or you get no, and at least you got no.
Or you get for sure, which we've got before for asking from other bands. But we, so we reached out to them, and it's funny because around the same time we had gone through this exact same process, sort of. There's a rock band right now called Foxing, that we also opened for prior to that, and we had done kind of the same channels. Or no, let me back up. They ran a competition which I thought was super cool. In each city that they went to, you could submit your stuff and they would select a band from each city. I'm getting a little off topic here, but I'll round it out. We had submitted to them too. And then on one day I finally heard back from the Knitting Factory booking agent, and she said, we heard from Hawthorne Heights team, they'd love to have you on as a local opener. And then she goes, and I also have an offer for you from Foxing, at the same amount of time. And it was like in the same month, like a week apart. And so it just kind of came to fruition that way, just from reaching out to those channels, from just and being persistent. I mean, I was checking with the Knitting Factory booking agent like on a weekly basis. Again, I'm sure she's super annoyed of hearing from me, but in a sense, like she even told me later on, I told her, I said, I hope I didn't overstep. I reached out to their team. And she goes, to be honest, that's probably better in most cases.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyways, yeah. So that's how that came about, and then, of course, it wasn't just Hawthorne Heights. It was Amber Pacific too, two bands that I listened to forever. And it just couldn't have been a better experience. I mean, I think it was sold out, at the Knitting Factory. So 1,000 people or whatever that were there. And I mean, the nicest guys in the world, and just super supportive, and it was kind of the pinnacle, thus far that we got to reach and play with, and especially a band that's that, influential on a genre that I grew up loving.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's amazing.
and like the moral of that story is persistence pays off, and sometimes you have to make your own luck. And like that is such a great example that I hope somebody listening who's in a band takes a couple notes from your process. Like you've got a lot of really great processes, but yeah, that's really awesome.
And it's it's also like, I think one thing to throw in there too is this wasn't like a one-off. Like, this has happened to us multiple times now. This is how we got put on the spill canvas. We opened for the Polyphonic Spree at the Treefort Music Hall. Like, same thing. Like, just that persistence, just reaching out and just not being afraid to hear no back, and then also not being afraid to be, ghosted, because that just might happen. Like, and it does. It for sure pays off. Again, I think a lot of this stuff, that we've been doing is just why we've been able to have, how we're measuring success that we've had, to this point. I mean, that even culminated into, I told you we opened for Fred from Taking Back Sunday. He blindly reached out to us via Instagram.
Wow.
Because he had seen some of these other things. He's like, hey, he was doing a solo. Yeah, he was doing a solo tour, and he was just like, I'm coming through Boise. He's like, I was looking for, bands that I dug their sound, that kind of, similar vibe. Reached out to us specifically. I literally looked at it and I was like, "This is spam. Like, this isn't this." And
this isn't real.
I told him that later when we were playing with him. I was like, "There's no way this is real," because you get that stuff on Instagram and whatnot all the time.
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Here's my phone number. Like, shoot me a text," and it was really him. And so that turned out to be a super fun show. And he's an incredible guy, also. But yeah, it just kind of, that moral of the story. It's that persistence does pay off for sure. And I think
it's very punk rock too. Just have to say, like, that is the definition of,
for sure. Like, paving the trails. Like, you just gotta, you gotta do it for sure. And I think it's one of the things you battle with as a musician today at whatever level it is, like, at least me, maybe I'll just speak for myself, like, get so fixated on some of the things that don't necessarily matter. So, like, I think we have 100 listeners a month or something on Spotify, like something like that, that's kind of trivial in a sense, right? But you get so fixated on some of that stuff where it's like, look at all the other things we've got to do. We get to record regularly. We've got to play with some of these amazing bands.
Right.
We've got a lot of traction in some of those places. And so I think it's just kind of, where are your priorities at, I guess? That,
and it's not a linear path, right? Like, all of these different things that are kind of working together separately and together, like when it all kind of comes together and the stars align, that's when the magic happens. So, yeah, I think it's fair. You don't want to get too focused on anything in particular.
For sure.
Yeah, so what's next for Mylo Bybee, and what do you have to promote? What do you see in the future?
Yeah. So we just wrapped recording another 6-song EP.
Woohoo!
And actually today, hopefully, we'll be getting some mixes back from the local studio. We recorded with a local studio. It's a new studio for us. To this point, we've recorded all of our stuff at the Tonic Room here in Boise. And this time we decided to work with Den Studios here in Boise. His name's Kyler Darren. He's in another great band called Bittermint in town here. Does a fantastic job. Just a really, really great experience with him. So, full 6-song EP. This is the first full-on album where the drummer that I mentioned before, our newer drummer, and then adding a lead guitar player, like we kind of, built this collectively together. Our lead guitar player joined later on, but obviously has a lot of, his own vibe and whatnot on these songs. And I think any band would say this, but it's by far the best stuff we've written, for sure. And so really excited to get that out there and start promoting that. So,
and are you going to release everything? Are you going to release everything at once, or are you going to do the slow release?
Slow release. We're going to do a slow release. We're going to hopefully release our first single middle July, to end of July. We're working with a couple partners.
Not too far away.
Working with a couple distributing partners. We have kind of a 4 to 5 week build up plan, to release the next single, to get content and all that stuff ready to go. So yeah, those will be coming out super soon. We're really excited about that.
Awesome. Do you have any shows on the books yet, or that's still kind of to be determined with the new music?
We do. Yeah, we're doing We've called it the Mad Tour, the Middle-Aged Dads Tour, and it's just a super short run. I have a 2.5-year-old at home, and I don't want to be away from him very long. And my other bandmates have, kids and whatnot with a lot of things going on right now. So we're doing just a short Friday, Saturday, Sunday run in the middle of July. We're hitting Ogden. And then we're hitting, there's a big art exhibit that's kind of, opening its doors in Idaho Falls. We're playing the Heart in Idaho Falls, and then we're playing a new venue in Pocatello called Misfits that just popped up. And that's July 11th, 12th, and 13th. Okay. And then we have, we don't actually right now have anything else planned in Boise, which that's kind of purposeful. Been trying to get out of town a little bit more and play outside the city. So then we're playing in Baker in September. A couple other little things leading up to that. But
great. Well, we have some rapid fire, just like a handful of rapid fire questions for you. What's your favorite venue that you've performed at?
Ooh, Treefort Music Hall. That's hard to beat.
We were just there.
That's hard to beat. Yeah,
it was awesome.
It's a great venue.
I mean, I love the DIY ones, but Treefort Music Hall for sure is pretty incredible.
Okay. What about favorite venue in Boise to attend a show at, which is maybe the same?
So they're not really doing shows very much anymore, but where we played with Spill, Olympic was like my favorite venue to go to. I also love the Neurolux, always been a lover of the Neurolux, and that's probably the one I frequent most. But I would say the Olympic for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's a cool venue.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant in Boise? Might be a hard question.
Finger steaks. Sorry.
Finger steaks.
Yeah.
The Torch. No. I love Wilder. Right next to Boise Brewing. Wilder and Fork are probably two of my top.
Those are great ones. Yeah. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Okay. Fair.
No.
What about favorite emo band?
Oh, gosh.
Or first one that comes to mind, maybe. Favorite can be hard, I know.
I don't know if they really classify as emo, but I always go back to Manchester Orchestra.
Absolutely, they do. No question.
Yeah, they're probably my all-time, favorite. Andy Hull's incredible.
I was gonna say Andy's voice is undeniably one of the greatest of all time.
And they just keep getting better.
Yep.
Like every album they put out is just better than the last, and that doesn't always happen.
Right. Yeah.
But another one that often comes to my mind too. I was a humongous Brand New fan. They were definitely like my top as well.
Yeah. Well, then you've got to listen. Yeah, you've got to listen to
in Salt Lake.
I saw that you went and saw them. Was that a good show? I had a friend there too.
Incredible.
The way I explained it is it was a musician's concert. Like it was all about the music, completely music forward. It was very cool.
They're one of my favorite bands, and so you've got to listen to
I'll go
June
back and
episode talks about our interaction with Blink 182 and the Brand New concert. So it's right in your wheelhouse.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Those are the two that come to mind right off the bat, and Taking Back Sunday, but.
Perfect.
There's a lot of them.
I think perfect. Katie and you are just like living in the same emo bubble.
Same bubble here.
Yeah. Manchester Orchestra was not really
that's me
a fave for me. Yeah, but they're great, of course.
They are. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was so great, and we look forward to seeing everything that you guys do moving forward. Do you want to shout out like your Instagram and stuff like that, and Spotify?
Yeah. Yep, you can find us on all of those things. Just Mylo_Bybee on Instagram. We have a website too, but most of our stuff is funneled, via Instagram. So that's probably the best kind of one-stop shop to go to. And then just search our name Mylo Bybee on any of the streaming services, and you can find all of our stuff. And then again, be on the lookout for some upcoming tunes.
Yeah,
perfect.
And it's Bybee.
Yes. Yep. Bybee.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Tyler. This was awesome. We appreciate it.
Really fun. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you all for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, that was awesome. I really loved talking with him and learning more about the writing process and what's in store for the band and the origin of the name.
Yeah. And maybe you guys will connect with your mutual connections and make some cool things happen, that is kind of like under the radar for now.
We're gonna make some things happening for sure.
Yeah, you're good at making things happen.
Have
You making fun of me?
Yes, I am.
Sorry.
It's only because I love you. You know, I saw on TikTok also recently that supposedly, like friends who give each other a hard time, like live longer lives and have healthier relationships or something like that. You know, because
makes
TikTok
sense.
is the end all be all.
Yeah, TikTok is, AI is taking over the world.
Oh, I know. Have you seen Mission Impossible yet?
No.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that the end of Mission Impossible, like a lot of the storyline is around like alternative intelligence, and or artificial whatever. But the end of the movie is very inspiring, I will say. But it's like
Okay.
scary how like the thing that they call the entity is like this thing that knows how to tell people, like knows how to give information to people specifically based on their interests, which is essentially the world we already live in.
Yep. Very
So,
true.
I digress.
Anyway, what's your emo lyric of the day?
You sound like a game show host. I love it. Well, I thought that I would just continue the delulu train, and
Love it.
and my lyric is from Constantine by Something Corporate.
Oh, hell yeah. This is also the second time you've picked a 10-minute song for your emo lyric of the day. By the way.
Well, specifically, the lyric that I chose is, "I always catch the clock. It's 11:11."
Oh my God. And it's time to talk. You'll always be my Constantine.
Okay, but let me read the lyric.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just finished it for you.
I love that. I do love that. So, I always catch the clock. It's 11:11. And now you want to talk. It's not hard to dream. You'll always be my Constantine.
That song is magic.
It is. But I really felt like I needed to dig deep on the 11:11 this
No,
this
that
week.
is that is so perfect. What a good little bookend of
Right?
the delulu Nani train.
Oh, yeah, here we are. It's summertime, full throttle, baby.
Yeah.
What about
You want to
you?
read it one more time?
Oh, sure. I can totally
Since I
read it again.
interrupted your first go.
Yes, just in case you didn't know, or if you came in halfway through the episode, I'm having things with 11s. So I chose this lyric. I always catch the clock. It's 11:11. And now you want to talk. It's not hard to dream. You'll always be my Constantine. And
What do you think a Constantine is?
okay, that's funny that you ask that because
And it's spelled with a K.
With a K, yeah. And I was thinking, like, it's kind of like long lost love, or like what could have been, or like heartbreak. Like it's an emotional, entity is kind of the way I think of it. Like, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't listened to that song in a while, and I think you'd have to listen to all 10 minutes of it, or 9 minutes, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a long song.
But I feel like it's kind of like the one true love, or like the one person you might always go back to type of a thing, And maybe it's not always a workable relationship, but it's always the person that like you want to go back to, or like your lives just keep kind of intersecting, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why
think-
it's spelled with a K. I don't know. Should we Google it?
So I just ChatGPT'd it. And the TLDR on it, the too long didn't read of it, is that Constantine is about that one person who ruined you for a while.
Okay.
Which is a lot darker than how you and I perceived it. But to me, it's like, I don't know, like the one that got away, or there's like an emotional entanglement with Constantine.
Yeah. Well, that's such a great song, though. That song really like hits me like right in the nostalgia. And
Love that.
I can't even tell you how many times I've just like listened to that song with, just, I don't know, just like gotten so into it. I'm not sure
yeah.
how I'm trying to explain that.
Something corporate, that Oh, geez, man, they are excellent. So it's a great song, but
Great
it also is a
choice.
long one. And, I really just had to find a song about 11:11, so there's that going on too.
No, good work. I'm very proud of you. Did you use ChatGPT to help you find it?
No, but I used a whole lot of Google.
Okay.
Because I was
Good
trying to
job.
figure out, like, I was just trying to, like, get into the headspace. I was like, there has to be something out there about different things. So I was trying different words and using 11s and all the things. So, yeah, to say I got emo about it would be an understatement.
No, that is perfect.
I know, right? Well, what about you? What's your emo lyric of the day, Katie?
So I chose a song from Mylo Bybee.
You did?
Since, that was our guest today, Tyler.
Yes.
And I mentioned during the podcast that Run Run, I think, is my favorite song, which is true. And Nani's showing me her phone right now because it's 1:11 as we speak. Guess what? That also happens twice a day.
I know, but I just picked up my phone.
Because, again, we're addicted. Anyway.
It's killing me. The ones. I'm just telling you. Okay.
The song. So I said during the podcast, Run Run, I think is my favorite Mylo Bybee song that I've listened to so far.
Yeah.
But this lyric from a song called Fade Me Out really struck me today. So the lyric is, believe me when I tell you this won't be without a fight. It's a lonely road ahead before you and I take back the night.
Oh my God, that's so good.
Yeah, right?
Okay, wait. Can you read it again? Can you read it again?
Believe me when I tell you this won't be without a fight. It's a lonely road ahead before you and I take back the night.
Ah, that's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, duh, you're winning emo lyric of the day. Like, duh. But
thanks.
that is such a good lyric.
Kudos to Tyler. I assume he's the one that wrote it because he said he does pretty much all the songwriting.
Yeah.
And also Fade Me Out, I think, is a great song title.
Yeah.
So I just like it. But I took that lyric to mean kind of like a strained relationship that is trying to get back on track.
Yep.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like things are not great right now, but we're going to work hard at it and we're going to get back to where we want to be. But it's really good. So
It's really good. And it's very much deserving of emo lyric of the week.
Thank you. Well, I'll play it to close it out so everybody can get a little taste of Mylo Bybee. And go check them out. They've got shows coming up, this weekend as of the release date. And He said more music, and he sent us some teasers or some previews of some new songs they have coming out.
How much fun would that be to play those songs right now? But we can't. But thank you for sending us the music because that was such a treat for us to listen to.
Yeah, such a treat. And we can't wait to see you guys when you come back to the area or when we go to Boise or somewhere else.
Yeah.
But go check them out and tune in next week at the Emo Hour. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, new music to come, more tour dates to come. Like, just keep your eye out for Mylo Bybee. And happy hump day. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, y'all.
It's so math rocky to me sometimes. I love it.